What is up, homies? Already got a couple of homies in the chat. Hope you guys are having a good time. And hoping you guys are having a good day. It is a Tuesday afternoon here in the place in which I live and reside. And I'm very delighted to have some cool stuff going on in Cosmonarchyville. We're going to be working on a couple of things. You probably already see it in the bottom left there. But we are going to be working on some Askosi audiovisuals. I already did some investigation of the issues that we've been having on the side of the, like the crashes and stuff. I think I've reduced a number of them. It's hard to say, but I'm pretty sure I've reduced a bunch of them now. So, we are going to be having some fun times there for sure. One thing that I actually have been I've been itching to do for a little bit of time now is try to figure out if I can replace some of the user interface that we have here at the start when you boot up the game initially. So when you boot up the game, here, I'll show you guys what I'm thinking about here. So I believe it's under glue title. This is what you see when you boot up the game, right? And hey, what's up, Biddy B, Heltrix, George, Chumbecca, and Lucy. I forgot to actually start rattling names off, and then somebody else said howdy, so I felt like I had to. Hope you guys are doing well. Obviously, our icon has changed, right? And I think we even have like better screenshots and stuff somewhere. I think I made one specifically for the. If I go here. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, the splash, right? So this is what I was thinking of, is that this was created and these screenshots were used and they used like more modern and graphics and stuff. So is this is 1920 by 1440. And if I were to resize this down to it's gotta be 640 by 480, yeah. So I guess this is something like what I'm thinking of here. And then, yeah, it even has that black bar at the bottom that's supposed to help the text be visible when you start up, though. Nobody ever needs to start up that way. But if we do this and we go ahead and hit that, and then we hit OK, and then we're looking for a color, I guess like this. Maybe not a little bit too dark. Maybe something like that. We're just looking for a dark color to replace with the transparency, but with the palette being a little bit limited. I don't know. Let's just see what it looks like, I guess. Pick like a random one. Yeah, basically turns it darker a little bit by the looks of things. That's fine. That should work. And then if I just go ahead and save this as title.pcx, and then we refresh and grab this file, then when I go into here, I replace this, and we rebuild our MPQ, for a moment when we launch the game, it should show that. It shouldn't have any artifacting or anything. It should just be, yeah, okay. That feels nicer to me. I've been staring at that. I've been noticing that pop-up screen a lot. Oh, it's Shirklastic! Hell yeah, dude. Hope you've been doing well, homie. And then someone who's using Google Translate, probably. How are you? ¿Cómo estás? But, yeah. There you go. We've already got ourselves a lovely little bit and bob of an improvement there. I'll keep Photoshop open. We'll be having some more time with it for sure. But yeah, I wanted to update the main menu. I think that's nice. We can pull up our patch notes and say, launch screen has been replaced. Splash art. Updated. There you go. Might as well throw that in the patch notes, right, guys? I mean, come on now. All right, so another thing, of course, that I want to be working on here is that fourth race, the Askosi. See if we can't have a couple of updates to their buildings. So the first one that comes to mind is the Cypher is going to need an almost built frame. I added one for the Gauntlet yesterday. I'd like to do some more stuff like that today. So we're going to find the Cypher here. And we see that it only has 2 frames. One of them is a work cycle, but whatever. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put this out here. This is one of them that never actually got a greenified variant. So that's also something that's worth doing, probably. So we're going to go ahead and extend it out by 160. Make a couple of guides real quick. And then move this over here. Oops. Duplicate it. And then we have ourselves the BGH. I did see people play BGH earlier, Cypher, or obviously main. And then we can come down here and do our color range option. Go ahead and cut for P color. And then this is going to be where we do some kit bashing, do some fucking around in Photoshop to make this structure look less complete than it currently is. What's up, Sausage? While you were doing some gaming. Hope you guys have been having a good time, you and Goosey. I know you've also been watching the World Cup, so I don't know anything about soccer, but I hope that your desired outcome has happened. And if it hasn't, I'm sorry. Yeah, Chembeka, I saw that, and then I was like, I should cast that game, because I knew that you were drunk. I read the chat message. I said, I should cast that game. I haven't even downloaded it, I don't think, but... yeah, that's... I'm thinking about it. Okay, so... I guess the first thing that we should probably be doing here is we should probably do a quick hue saturation change. See if we can't crank the greens here. Where are the greens at? Yeah, that's pretty green. Right? But what are we actually trying to change here? It looks like there's going to be some reds that we crank up to green, some oranges as well. Yeah. And then I think we'll go ahead and darken a little bit. As well. That should do it. It's not really that useful. There's only a few pixels that are classed as greens according to this. Okay, so that's fine. So now, I think I want to keep the base mostly intact from the perspective of the Cypher having a... I want to keep the base mostly intact because this is where the player color is, and I don't want to add more player color somewhere else right now. I could, in theory, but that might just add a little bit more effort here. So the first thing I'm thinking is that this little top piece should come off, and we're going to go ahead and do a layer via cut. And I guess for now we'll... Actually, we don't really need to. We can just group this together and then do that. It'll be fine. So... I kind of want to take this top piece off as well. Maybe something like this area. Yeah, sometimes. Okay, we're gonna take the barrels that are on this back of the Cypher here, and we're gonna be messing around with this for a little bit, but let's go ahead and Can we grab a harder thing here, maybe? So whatever that was not working. Okay. So this is the clone tool. You guys are unfamiliar with it. Pretty good. Works pretty well at taking existing stuff and recreating it. So we're kind of like layering in some scaffolding here, some stuff like that. And we don't have to fill the whole thing necessarily with something super huge, right? In fact, we might be able to do something kind of cheeky, where we flip it like this, but then we put it underneath the main. And so it's an unfamiliar angle to look at some of the pieces, but it kind of looks like it's a piece that's like waiting to be slotted into place, right? Little tricks like that can actually be really, really good at giving you something there. Oh, and for part of the main, I think it's good to take these little pieces off the bottom of whatever this little pump is. And we can also put that under here and maybe even have it merging. I don't know. It's probably fine actually if it's not, if it's just like this. And we'll clone tool that a little bit too, I think. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to merge these layers back so I can use the clone tool, the stamp tool on it. But we were in the midst of trying to move this down here. And we can erase P-color stuff over there. That's fine. Shouldn't really be there anyway. And then we're going to have this barrel down here. And we can... So we've kind of completed that a little bit more, right? The alarms don't do their thing now. I heard Zerg here. Did it not go through for you guys? Oh, I see. Twitch alerts and Streamlabs were muted. You should be able to try now, and it should go through. But also, hello, Solstice. I am buffing their art, Godweep. That's exactly what I'm doing.
I am a hero!
That's really good because I just, like, Zerg here came out and then I said, sometimes, and so the stream must have thought I was talking to myself, and I guess I technically was. Pretty good, huh? Paint over those heavy lights. So it's obviously, I mean, it's pretty clearly like, I guess one thing I would say about this is that it's very different than what it used to look like. And it's not quite finished, right? There's like a big harsh seam over here that I gotta fix up. But I think we can kind of make it feel a little bit more opened up, like surgical almost, right? Like somebody's in for surgery, their chest cavity's opened up. That's the kind of design you want for some of this stuff. And so I think that is, oh, let's do right here. We don't want any badness. I'll just go ahead and pick all of our layers so we can do this correctly. The stuff in the background being so I think there's something to the idea, or to the, there's something about the crates, the barrels being the way that they are, that makes it a little bit awkward over here. And so I think we actually take out a lot of the verticality of the structure in its almost built phase when we do that little cloning that we just did, which helps it feel incomplete. Yeah, spread the word across the world is definitely a good one. I don't have a lot of Askosi voice acting in the game, but it's pretty legit. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and import our changes. Now we're going to need to export these to one frame. Let's go here, Cipher. And the reason we want to do that is so that we can go ahead and do the building shadow. Go fuck. Okay. That should be enough for me to... Why does it say that? It can't delete. Oh, this is disabled. That was weird. I probably just misclicked at some point or whatever. Okay, so now we go and open this, and we say, hey, let's import this. This moving the way that it has feels like it's actually going to be incorrect. And we like... Yeah, it's still... I'm not really sure why it would be like that. Let's try this now. Not I IDK about that one. Okay, that's better. Very odd. Okay, so we got our cipher and our shadow taken care of. Now we need to actually go ahead and open up Notepad here. Find the cipher. The almost built needs to be set to play frame 2. And that's it. Very basic stuff. Oop, that's not the right one. And we should be able to call that one done.
Bring us to haven. Clad in humility.
Cool. And then, of course, when it's actually done,
Your assembly is finished.
it has the more greenified version now. So that's good. So we'll say on our patch notes, now we can say that. All right, and if we take a look at the Askosi, the Radix has an almost built frame, the Cypher does, the Gauntlet does. I don't remember about the Cosmoscope, probably not, and I actually don't remember about the function either, so... Oh, it kind of does. It comes with one that's, like, weirdly partial. A bit desaturated, of course. Probably need some of the player color brought from it. We do, like, function real quick. I can put this in my graphics folder, and then I can do this function. It's actually going to be pretty easy to handle if you think about it, because all we got to do is do the color range here. Layer via cut. Do this. Do this. BG. Main. P color. And then. Okay, dude. I don't know why that was so hard. Okay, cool. So that was actually pretty easy. It already had something in there. So now we just merge these layers with P color, and then we go ahead and find our hue sat, and we basically just kind of do the same thing that we did before. Five frames. All right. Delete that. Go here. Okay. My guess is I didn't actually use that frame. Yeah, looks like it. So now we've got the function taken care of. So we have to go ahead and put that in our patch notes as well. Function. Again, I don't think the Cosmoscope actually... Hey, what's up, Hanmano? How you doing? Cosmoscope. Yeah, the Cosmoscope does not have one, so go ahead and set that up. It also is one of the older Askosi structures, which means it, Oh, okay, interesting. I never actually noticed that the interior here was actually like a thin thing. For some reason, I always thought that was like a solid dark color. But that makes more sense, actually. So we're just going to do main. This is one of the older Askosi structures, and I never wound up giving it the same hue sat treatment, so I am going to do that here as well. And then we're going to come into here and say, hey, you ever think about being a little green? You ever think about maybe being a little bit green? Have you ever considered that? All right, and then what do we got here? We have, looks like 160 to the right. And then we have me doing this. And me saying, yeah, there's a missing player color strips. So we'll have to, I guess we can bring that over here though. We can just do the same kind of thing. Maybe we probably particularly want to take this down. Also, since it's bothering me right this moment. It's like canonically in the original game that this asset comes from must be some kind of helipad. So if I just make it into kind of generic sci-fi rusted metal cybernetic whatever the fuck instead, that feels better. Right. So now I'm going to take that. I'm going to do this. This. I'm going to do that. And we're going to do that. All right. So that's pretty good. Now we just need to go ahead and sort of do a layer via cut here. We're going to group these together and then attach that reassignment to the group. And then we're going to shift this down by a decent amount. $18 pixels, so we can do that and then say put this down by 18 pixels and then just masking out what wouldn't be visible from this vantage point, basically. Kind of leads me to believe that we should barely have any of it visible, and that's fine. Add. We want to... I feel like this does look already like a pretty distinct thing. I guess the only other thing that I can think of is that maybe we want to erase some of these connectors, these little tubes. Right? Like that. And since this is, of course, a placeholder graphic, we are going to replace it later on when some magical mystical artist comes out from up on high and starts giving us graphics for the Askosi. I don't have to worry about it making sense, necessarily. It's all an abstraction, anyway. And it will be made better later. So, that's what I think. There's main osmoscope, and then go ahead and do this. Becomes less green because Starcraft doesn't have as many greens as we would maybe like it to have, and it looks like we're going 7 frames here. And of course, that since we made a new one, it also means we have to do another shadow. So we're gonna go ahead and get ready to do that, and then we're gonna close this, and then we're gonna go to shadow, and we're gonna say, hey, let's go to importing our shadow. But we don't have the shadow yet, so we gotta make it, so let's do that. And then we come to here. And then we do this, and then we set the layer style, and then we transform, and then we just figure out how we want to align it so that the red is actually the appropriate distance and shape, approximately, of what a shadow would look like. And we are not scientists, so we do not care necessarily if it is kind of fucked up, because it will be, because it's just a 2D projection. That's as good as we can do without a 3D model right now. So we're just going to quickly wrap that one up and say, yeah, that's it. We did it. So this one also went down and to the right. So maybe we can fix that one again. Last time we did that. So let's see if that's the same thing each time. No, it looks like it needs to go like that. So it's going to be a little bit different each time, I guess. That's all right. It doesn't take that long to fix. Really confusing. Okay. I think that'll be good enough. All right, so we've taken care of the Cosmoscope. I was a little bit more present of mind when it came to implementing stuff from the other trees, the other, what do you call it? The later tiers, rather. Did I? Okay, there's no almost built for the arch, so we definitely want to figure that one out. I feel like even the graphic itself is maybe a bit uncentered. I think it should be over there a little bit. Come on. This one's honestly really easy. I think we just do this. We fill in whatever we need to as far as the gaps are concerned. We probably even go ahead and take out these wings. Do we even want this top one, though? Not really, right? Doesn't really look good to me. I guess it kind of tells you that there's something being built up above, but I don't know. I don't really dig it. I didn't do a recolor on that guy, but I don't think it matters that much. Okay. Okay. I think we're good. We can just go ahead and plug in our Arch Shadow. Oh no, it's been fucking heavily moved. Alright, I know what we do here. Yeah, I guess the transform is not being consistent, which is a little odd. The dimensions aren't that different. I don't know why it would be like that. Sorry. Okay. So, with all that said, we've now done the arch as well. But only the almost built frame. We didn't really do anything else, and that's fine. Was it Cypher in the background there? Okay. What else do we have? We know the proscenium has them. I actually don't remember about the other structures here. I think like the astrolabe doesn't. Oops. Oh, it kind of does, right? I guess that's the question, is does it use it? So we have the arch, which is over here, and the almost built is supposed to be 1, and then oh, I see. Yeah, it has to be 1 for all those. And then what else do we do? We did the cosmoscope, so we're gonna say the almost built is 6. That's not all right. And then we've got cosmoscope, we got arch, we have the gauntlet, and the function cipher. Okay. I think the function we forgot to invoke. No, we did. That's good. And then astrolabe. Yeah, the almost built does use 1. Okay. So then we think about Xylode, which I believe came with one. Yeah, Xylode. Does it use it? It does. It doesn't have any player color. Feels like an easy thing to fix, but do we want to do it right now? It's a minor note anyway, but... what else was there? We added it for the grandstand. Does the Chantry have one? I can't remember. It does not. Okay, so that's going to be something that we want to fix up. I mean, the Chantry is a fairly important structure, I would think. That is what it provides to the race. Cool. I think that's easy enough, honestly. I don't think it needs to be much more complicated than that. Hell yeah, no life, Brian. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm finally at a spot, it feels like, where I can do these streams again. And that's good, because that means that we'll be doing a lot more general... Like, we're just gonna get more progress on the game if I'm doing streams, you know what I mean? Simple as. Holy shit, that one worked. Okay. I keep forgetting as well, though. I'm supposed to make sure that I do this. Oh yeah, good. Very nice, very nice. I have to add the, like when I do the damage files here, I'm gonna make sure that they have the coordinates, for, even though the almost built frame doesn't actually do anything there. It's still pretty important. So when we look at like radix, for example, yeah, that one was added already, so that's good. But when we look at the chantry we just added, right? Yeah, we did. Cosmoscope needs one. Function needs one. Oh, function had one, okay. Did the landlock ever get one? Did. Going on, Kyle? Yeah, I mean, it's right. It's correct to say that I take a lot of inspiration from Brood War. But some things that Brood War does, which are not bad, but are decisions that they make. Some of the decisions that they make with their user interface and stuff like that restricts the scale, puts a constraint on the scale. And I decided pretty early on in Cosmonarchy's development that I didn't want players to be limited by the engine in that way. There still is a hard limit on how efficient your armies are going to be, particularly when it comes to ground armies and moving through terrain, and air armies and dealing with enemy splash damage. These are built-in constraints to the rest of the engine that make it so that moving all of your units at once is very vulnerable to counterattacks, plausible to get a lot of your army wasted if it's an air stack, plausible to have your army kind of fail to move around the map elegantly. These are all decisions that, even if we decided we wanted to try to protect against for some other reason, we would then have to reevaluate the thing like selection limit. Like, big armies already have a problem moving in big spaces without a selection limit. And so I wanted players to make a decision to start the process of moving their army, have to still babysit it if they wanted to move it efficiently, but then also be able to do other things, and freeing up a little bit of their APM for other decisions that they made. So it's kind of the same thing as improving the pathfinding a little bit, so that, for example, you're not having to spam click your units up a ramp, particularly things like Dragoons, Goliaths, Ultralisks. Nobody really spotted pathfinding issues in the same way with like Broodlings or Reavers, but they also existed there as well. And even Zerglings, to an extent, actually have the same problem. But it's way more magnified for the Ultralisk, for the Goliath, for the Dragoon. These are units with notorious pathing issues, and smoothing out their pathing in particular, which was pretty easy to do. Anybody could do it if they were modding StarCraft 1 or even Remastered. Regardless of version, it's super easy to fix that. Smoothing that out makes it so that you don't need to babysit every individual action with those kinds of units in particular. In order to spam click your unit up a ramp, you have to give up APM you would put on more interesting decisions. The decisions I decided were more interesting to my own internal sense of what was compelling to me. So I fully admit, and not everybody is going to agree with that necessarily, but that's where I'm at. That's what my thought process was, if you will. Hell yeah. Okay, so we know the domain. Almost built frame. What about the bound? And it does also need one, okay. No. Orminge probably needs one, if I had to guess. Yeah. Well, we definitely need more RTS games, and I think it's good to look back to the two-dimensional games. The last great hurrah of RTS for me was Brood War. To an extent, I have a lot of respect for Age 2, even though I don't particularly find myself called to the game. So on a thematic level, I know that they have had a lot of power there with what they've done, and so I dig that and respect that. But yeah, for sure, one of the biggest things that I think people can learn from are those games. The 3D games, I really don't think that they tell you a lot of good lessons. I guess like StarCraft 2 shows you a lot of what not to do, and to an extent, there's like elements of that within the even more modern shit like Stormgate. But there's so much baggage you've got to get through because of the live service nature of those games that makes it actually kind of hard to interface with it on a design level. Because what design are you talking about? Are you talking about when it launched? Are you talking about it when its first expansion pack came out? You know what I mean? Like, it would be kind of like trying to figure out what Cosmonarchy's design was when it first called itself Cosmonarchy, because that was a rebrand from another name called Project Hydra. And also, like, Cosmonarchy itself has gone through so many evolutions. And so it would be really hard to just try to holistically say, like, no, I want to learn about, like, what... I want to learn something from, like, a really old version of Cosmonarchy. You can, but... I wouldn't even really be able to tell you about them in great detail because I'm so focused on the modern version and continuing to push it up in cool places. But one thing I think that a lot of RTS games struggle with is scale of decisions. And that extends past just whether or not your selection limit is really big and you have really big armies. I feel like you need a lot of decisions in an RTS game. And making, like I decided really early on that I wanted a lot of units. And the reason why you wanted a lot of new units is because you want the player to be able to make a lot of decisions about compositions. And a lot of the stuff in the engine is done in a way that makes it so that, like, units pathing that I called out earlier, the unit pathing that I called out about, like, ground armies in particular makes positional play really interesting. It adds a lot of value to that. And so when you step aside from that and you think about what makes the game really good, makes the game satisfying to make all of these decisions, it's because, like, death balls don't really work in the same way that you would expect for just if you macro up a bunch of units and then use a big selection limit. That would be the fear of the selection limit, is that it creates a death ball. But through the pathfinding stuff that I mentioned and intelligent unit designs that all respect a particular thematic for each race or whatever, I think you can get to a point where death balls are really not very efficient. They can be a playstyle, but they're not the defining playstyle. Maybe right now we have some issues with, like, Askosi death balls. Maybe that would even be resolved with people just practicing different meta stuff. But that's sort of where I'm at there, is that I think you can get to a point where it's pretty legit. It works out pretty well. And you just embrace the fact that you got a lot of units. That's basically what I'm saying. I didn't hear about their features getting paywalled post-launch, no life. That's pretty, that's actually pretty shocking. Even for, modern-day game dev. I'm switching over to do the, oh, I don't need that one, actually, because it's already recolored. I'm switching over to do the Latiro real quick. This is the only straight up production structure from the Askosi that doesn't have an almost built frame. The Panoply does, the Obelisk should. I actually didn't double check that. Oops. Yeah, it does. And then we already checked that the Astrolabe and the Xylo do. We know the Proscenium does, just from memory. So then after we're done with the I think the Lekrot has one. Yeah. And then the Hearth Shard has one. So Yeah, so looking at it the way that this works, like, basically what I'm getting at here is that the primary production structures having almost built frames is a really big deal. The tech nodes having almost built frames is a really big deal. Those are the big ones that you want to watch out for. And of course, the landlock is obviously important too. The only ones that would need it, as far as I can tell after this, are the bounty, the domain, and the dorminge. I think those are the only structures that need almost built frames. But I am going to stop almost built framing after the Latiro. And I'll do another burst of them later, or chip away at it, or whatever later on. I don't think we, strictly speaking, I do not think we need to do all of them at once. That's my thought. And one thing I respect about Age of Empires 2 for sure is that they do have a fairly complicated economy system, and a lot of RTS games these days simply don't have that in the same way. And so I certainly, like I mentioned, you know, I do have respect for I do have respect for the game in that respect, in that sense. But the thematics never really quite caught on to me. I just happen to know that, like, the game has a lot of depth to it. You know, it's like the fighting games, right? Like Smash or whatever. Like, I intellectually, factually understand that that the games have a lot of depth, and they're working on things, and they got a lot of cool stuff going. I get that for sure, but I don't know about it being my particular angle, and that's okay. Just never quite spoke to me. That's a very simple. That is a very simple almost built frame. That's very funny to me. All right, we're gonna go ahead and do that, and then do this. So. A lot of people are really into Age of Empires 2, though, and it's getting that really nice. It's got that treatment to it now, where it's been going through a little bit of a not quite revolution, or renaissance, I think is what I was thinking of there, and that's legit. Like, glad that community has something nice to really sink their teeth into. In the same way that, like, Starcraft 2 is not my jam at all, but they have some controversial but still factual. They have some changes going on. There's some developer support happening, and I think that's great. If they can, you know, I hope it leads them into a better game. You know, I don't have faith that it will. To be fair, to be clear, I don't think it's going to happen, but I hope. I hope that they get a better game out of it. Now let's go ahead and get our Latiro Shadow redone. Hero. And then, of course, for the damage overlay, we're going to duplicate the final frame and then just paste over null coordinate. Did we get lucky again with this? No, of course not. Nice. Yeah. So I'm not allowed to make any balance adjustments, guys. I can't, but I do kind of want to. I certainly want to make some bug fixes that will affect gameplay and balance. That's another thing I was thinking about. But can't do that right now. We got a tournament going on. I can't be pushing that stuff to release. Yeah, all right. So we definitely got a lot of the structure stuff taken care of. That's very good. One thing you're struggling with about the eco, would it add to the experience and make it too uncomplicated? You know, one game you could check out, particularly if you want to play it without heroes. There's like a way to do that in Skirmish, I think. The Warlords Battlecry series of games. It's quite the experience. I might go back and replay that at some point soon because I feel like that was a really interesting accomplishment what they ended up doing with that. There's so many races. They have some shared technology. But it's there's a lot of differences there. Also, it's fantasy, which maybe I'm a little starved for since I've worked so long on Cosmonarchy. I haven't been able to make any fantasy RTS games or anything like that. Last time I did anything like that was probably working on like a Warcraft 3 project where I was trying to overhaul every unit. I made it more like Warcraft 2 pacing. Like, I think my generic rule was that units should have a third of the health. They should attack at least... I think they attacked 2/3 faster, like 1.66 faster or whatever. And I made it so that the damage values were always the same instead of random. And stuff like that. So. It kind of worked out. One problem was that the AI was really bad because the computer player would have these hard codes to like burrow their crypt fiends when they were below a certain actual amount of health and not percentage. So they would get hit once and burrow, and then they wouldn't do anything. So that was pretty bad. But some hard codes were expecting a certain amount of HP instead of a certain percentage. And I know Chebecca was talking about the lack of asymmetric gimmicks in Age of Empires 2, but I think racial asymmetry is actually a really important part of an RTS game, and I'm just not interested in games that don't have that asymmetry, to be honest. Sorry. Yeah, Warlords Battlecry. It's cool. It's supposed to be like a hero and also like it's an RPG RTS hybrid is what it's going to be marketed as. But don't listen to anybody try to explain the game to you exactly, especially with generic terms like RTS or RPG. Just you're going to want to check it out and just play it and see what it's like, because whatever you think it might be like, it's not. It's like it's a really odd game, but it's got some ideas in it. The economy in that game is not very interesting, in my opinion. It's actually something that gets let down a little bit, because all you do is convert. You basically you control mines, like these ore veins or whatever, of 4 different varieties. From memory, it's like, I think it's like stone, gems, gold, and copper. I think it's something like that. And then so you get 4 of those, and then you like they cost different things, cost different resources. And I never really felt like it was articulated super well. But yeah, that's what we got there. Yeah, you can get a initial retinue of units, a starting retinue. You're right, shopkeeper. What about my reviews? Well, I mean, I don't know if they're really old. I don't know if they'll be. I don't even know if I agree with myself from that age. Again, I would have to replay it. Maybe I'll do it on stream at some point. But. Yeah, in the second game and the third game, and I'm not sure about the first as much because it didn't really have the same kind of campaign even. It was a little bit more like generic, actually, the way that its campaign was done. It definitely gives you some options to have your hero do everything. I think if I replayed it now, I probably wouldn't really bother with the hero too much. I would try to figure out a way to make it so that I didn't need it. That's kind of the main problem, though. If you don't have a hero, then you need a general, which is like a end game tech and the general can convert mines. But the only other way for you to convert mines is to have a town center that you build. That starts a conversion that takes really long, and I think if they take damage, it interrupts it. So it's really hard in practice. It's probably easy enough in the campaign because you can like 1v1, whatever. Like the AI is not very good, right? So it's not super competitive there. U.S. Midwest Online, what's up, dude? Yeah, but it's a cool set of games. I think I don't think you have to play if you're only gonna pick one. I would try 3. It has the most races and a pretty replayable campaign that you can kind of get stuck into a little bit. If you actually care about like learning it from a design standpoint, it might help you to play through from 1 to 3 and just study the systems as they evolve or whatever. But it kind of remains very similar throughout all of it, with just scaling up the amount of races you have. And I respect that the core gameplay, like I think they mostly evolved the hero system, but the RTS gameplay underneath it is what I would be most interested in. And that's kind of solidified from the first game. They just have different unit designs and more races and stuff. Like if I was going to release RTS games in a more conventional way, I'd probably do something like that. I'd probably solidify a solid RTS core, and then I'd release like 2, 3, 4, whatever the sequel is, and then just add more shit, add more races, add more units. What a haha. Yeah, that's exactly what I would say too. Okay, so we have our... Alright, got our stuff. Did the art... Yeah, I did the Cosmoscope. Okay. So that's good. That means that when we boot this up here, we will have... we should have the... Lotiro. And then...
We offer this for our hands for doors. Bring us to haven. Clad in humility. Brighter harvests before us.
How am I gonna... Can I do this, guys? Is it possible?
We offer this for.
I don't know. You gotta get it exactly to the pixels, so I don't think it's gonna work. Doesn't look like the Latiro was correct. Also, I forgot to do the chantry correctly. But yeah, this is all... Okay, the chantry and the Latiro are not set up properly. Latiro. 6, and then chantry. So we tested that. That's good. Okay. The theme music, the music for the Askosi, some of it is actually already done, and you can hear it when you play like Amber Word, the scenario we have. But that had to be manually added to the map and triggered, because currently we don't have the code handled for adding custom music. That's a big one. So we gotta finish getting that code. We also gotta do some user interface stuff for getting in. Well, one thing that we do have to figure out is how do we set it up so that it's a Askosi in a campaign context too? Because technically you're Terran in you're technically Terran in the Amber Word scenario, because in SEM draft you can't set the race to fucking 69 or whatever it is right now. So. I guess maybe we could like intercept the race being set to a certain thing. Like if we were to your race can be Zerg, Terran, Protoss, independent, neutral, random, inactive, human, and random is obviously one thing, but like if we set it to independent and then intercepted that, and that was Askosi, and then neutral was Bloodsummon, and then inactive was Kogri or something, that maybe that could work, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just not been implemented in game. Not yet. We'll get there. All right, so we've done a bunch of graphics work. That's very good. And just check something real quick. Okay, I haven't taken that long to do all that, so that's nice. Let's think about what else we want to do as far as our changes to the audiovisual space are concerned. I know we need death sound effects for a lot of Askosi units. And that will definitely help out for readability and stuff. But what do we want? Oh, I guess a bounty sound effect would be good. Or not a bounty, it's a domain. I have not processed those yet, Chebecca. Thank you for reminding. When I said I would look through them soon on the 9th of July, I of course meant the 7th of the 9th of June. I of course meant the 7th of July, right? That's soon. That counts. Trying to think about what we need for. Yeah, just on the goddamn precipice.
Get us closer.
I still can't believe the that game. You know the one. That match, Hanmano, Neblim, Magnetron. Dude, that was a crazy game. I really want to see that game again. I want to watch it back with the player cameras. I want to just play it through that. That's what I want to see. That's going to be a good one. I'll take a look at that at some point. Watch back that replay, make sure that it's working, send it to a few people. So, if there was a strategic reason why Hamano refused to attack the Solarians directly, it was really hard to chase them down. He only like really cornered them when they went all the way to his natural. All right. Sound-wise, huh? I guess what we can do is we can jump into here and try to find some kind of sound for the domain harvesting resources. All right. Once I'm done with this quick sound effect here and I hook it up into the game, I think we'll go ahead and push the changes to... we'll go ahead and push the changes there to where we need it to be. And then I think we're going to go in, take a short break, get some more water, all that stuff. What's up, Steven? The sound library is we've got a bunch of stuff that's from various abandonware projects, and we got a whole bunch of stuff that's from like the BBC sound, some sound library from BBC. We got a bunch of stuff from a couple commercial CDs, and then there's a couple of sounds that I purchased from Sound Effect. I think it was A Sound Effect is the website. Depends on what it is, but. So it kind of depends on where it is, you know? And then sometimes people will contribute sounds directly to the project. They own storages. Oh, like abandonware games from way olden days. They themselves mostly sampled from the same commercial CDs that Blizzard used for Starcraft. And some of those commercial CDs can no longer be accessed on the internet. So sometimes you actually do need to go back that far in order to get access to the same kind of sounds that were used for StarCraft 1. Some other stuff was actually music. If you listen to the Zerg music, you'll sometimes hear the same sound they used for the Irradiate sound effect, for example. It's very finicky what they ended up doing with a lot of that stuff. I have no idea about Conquest Frontier Wars. If it's classed as abandonware, then it would be pretty easy to use their stuff, but I probably wouldn't use another game's music. Maybe in like a campaign mission or something. So there's definitely times where that could be plausible, but I don't think I would use it for like generic contexts. Durham, are you Skirmish Badger? Is that who you are? Is that even your username? Did I just make that shit up? Oh yeah, Skirmish Badger. Pretty sure that's you. What up, Shamble?
We are Legion!
Oh shit. Oh yeah, that's also true. Tribeca does provide free sound libraries. That has been quite the collection over the years. Hell yeah. All right, we're gonna wait for GPTP to complete. I'm gonna paste that in. I'm gonna here and say new sound effect for domain policy. I feel like we should only create the resource. Well, I don't know. Doesn't really matter. The only case where this would even happen is if all the resources were gone. I don't think that's even possible. Yeah, if somebody still has, like, legal rights to the assets, which probably would be the case. Like, abandonware in a legal sense means, like, the company that owns the copyright has become insolvent, and nobody owns that copyright anymore. It's a little bit rare for that kind of thing to occur. Right, yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Very, very minor, but we did end up adding some audio to the audio visuals. And we're just going to keep that one visually buff. Visually buff many Askosi structures, just because people have been talking about that. All right, I shall return. When I do, apparently we have to have the infinite window effect here. When I return, we'll be looking at some... I'm going to get familiar with the tech stack for the new website that Veek did. I'm going to jump out of the... I'm jumping over the Vec 2 stuff. into the website tech stack, and that's because Vic hasn't gotten back to me on anything I might be able to help with regards to those, and nobody's reported anything else that I need to investigate yet. So I don't have anything to do with that right now. I did all that stuff earlier today when I fixed a bunch of bugs and crashes. I am going to jump into the website tech stuff when I return from my short break, probably like 5 minutes or less. And during that time of the tech stuff, there may very well be, as I build up like the new, the local version of the website so that I can test it, you guys might see some Bloodsummon activity, but only on my computer on this stream. So you guys are going to want to stick around for that. I'll be back. Alright, I have returned. It is now time to get some more work done on the epic game that we got here. So, yeah, website tech stack. I gotta read some notes from Veek here. Okay. VS Code. Interesting. So, yeah, that's another thing, right? Is that I don't even have it set up here. All right, let's open folder. We'll go to source. All right, and then he said to install Node.js. Okay, I think I have Node.js. So let me do open VS Code and control tilde. Let's see what these errors are. Looks like maybe I just needed to install some stuff. Oh, call Manarchy. What's up, Milestone? Have heard of Bloodsummon? I haven't seen anything yet. Yeah, dude. Fifth race mention. There's some buffs for the Askosi, the weakest race. The Shopkeeper Dog, are you going to call Askosi the weakest race when you win? Are you going to do that? How does one upgrade to Node.js? That's the question. I need to. What's up, Belethal? And what's up, Juju? Let's find out. Oh yeah, I hope it was good, homie. Interesting. I'm supposed to uninstall Node.js first. Okay. If you say so. Full panel. Programs. 12.18.3. Alright guys, if I need this for later, it's 12.18.3. Random question. Did you record the Goska Goth breath sounds yourself to play during his voice lines? Those are extracted and blended in with the audio. I think I did an okay job of that. I probably would do slightly better now, but it would probably just be like 5% better, 10% better maybe. I don't think it would be very perceptible to the average Joe. Hot damn, it takes a while to uninstall Node.js, doesn't it, guys? Gone. Gonzo. Okay, let's go to the program. Ah, Jesus. Ah, jeez. Ah. That's what you have to do when you just want to quickly go somewhere. Oh, that's fine. This work. Node. What am I looking at? NPM. Okay. Oh, it's part of Visual Studio! No wonder! I should not have uninstalled that. Oh dear. Oh golly gee willikers. Whatever. Where are these anyway? Oh, it's Node.js is what I'm looking at here. Node. I do not see a node. No, is it in here? No. This. Can't believe you've done this. Oh, that's a... I can't even do it through a terminal? No, not antivirus. Oh, man, I gotta do it. Hey, where's the actual download? Release list. Antivirus report. Yeah, might as well set me up, dude. Desktop notifications? No. How about that? Bye. Don't need to open with PowerShell, thanks, dude. Yeah. NVMV. In the terminal? What? Open new command. Oh my god. Alright, that's easy enough. Alright, so... what version did Visual Studio want me to have? 18... Can I do just... Okay. I'll download that version, but I'm sure there's just a install... version... That's fine. We did it. Oh, Now I can't use npm because I uninstalled Node.js. Oh no, how do I do that? Oh, I have to install. Oh. Yeah. What's that? No. Yeah, I am installing Node.js. Fuck this dude. And by that I mean I'm not doing that. Oh, good. It's working. Do I need to sync these changes? I feel like I should not do that. How do I exit? Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, brothers. We got our Bloodsummon. We got our Bloodsummon, brothers. Fucking go. All right. Okay. So one thing I am noticing is that we are missing a few details. We go to the Divine Primacy. It doesn't look like we might need BRs here or something for the line break. Let's see. Go to... Oh, well, I'm actually kind of silly. I can just edit it here. Let's do that. I think we might have to do this. Okay, no. Okay, that didn't work either. Interesting. I don't know. What's up, P-Sense? Probably told us before, inspiration behind the Bloodsummon. Or the demons like. Yeah, so the Bloodsummon are indeed demonic in nature. They are the way that you can think about the Bloodsummon is that once you reach a certain scale, once you have enough things, intelligent things, creating grand achievements and providing enormous like engineering feats. You think about like cathedrals in Europe or something like that, right? Like, but now you got to 100x that because you're talking about sci-fi, like futuristic tech. You're talking about enormous sprawling empires and all the things that they have done. All of that is an example of an achievement of an intelligent species. And the destructive force that must be imposed in order to bring those things to the ground and turn them into rubble, and in order to commit those acts of violence and evil onto a populace, that destructive force is harbored by individuals. But Terrans have this unique capacity in Cosmonarchy, in the world of Cosmonarchy. They have this unique capacity to interface with things like what their chemists are used for. You're talking about the it's basically a canonical fact in Cosmonarchy's setting that the time manipulation that they do, the temporal changes that they make to process reclamation, and other psychic powers that are really quite powerful, are sourced from the access that Terrans have to DMT. They have the DMT molecules in their brain. They are genetically engineering themselves to have more of an access to that. So that kind of interfaces with the same destructive force that I'm talking about. It's like they both come from maybe a similar unitary source in the cosmos. But Terrans are offloading that. They're offsetting it. They're kind of changing up what's balanced in their minds in order to create these things, in order to cheat death with this strange mockery. And it's not strictly reclamation alone that accomplishes what I'm discussing, which is the phenomenon of how Bloodsummon are created or how they are made manifest within this reality, because it's a little bit ambiguous in the setting as to whether or not Bloodsummon are born here or they simply arrive and they were born somewhere else and they were manifested somewhere else. But however they're made manifest in this world, the world of Cosmonarchy, it is clearly linked to the way that Terrans in particular manipulate the fabric of reality with the molecules in their brain in a way that is very unique, because they're basically trying to use this power that they have. They're cultivating this power in an attempt to remove the destructive force, the energy that fuels chaos and bedlam and destruction. They're trying to remove that from their own capacity. They're from their own psyche. And they're trying to turn that towards the undoing of death and the perpetual shielding against death. You think about the healing that they have and the shielding and protection and the armor buffs and things like that. These are all things that are sourced through the same power. And that has engineered, at scale, the arrival of the Bloodsummon. So that's like, lore-wise, that is how they have made manifest. It's through this meddling of the Terrans as they have grown in scale and in size and across the cosmos. Now, inspiration as far as that idea, it's sort of this cosmic counterweight to one particular species providing enormous advantages to themselves that go counter towards destruction. And in a sense, you can even argue that, like, say, the healing that the Askosi have, if it's done in a similar fashion, which right now it's not established in the canon, then perhaps you could also blame them a little bit. If the Zerg are using destruction to heal themselves, so they're not nearly as interesting to the Bloodsummon. They don't particularly trigger the Bloodsummon in the same way to make manifest upon this world. And the Protoss are, I mean, they're honorable, but they don't really bother with the avoidance of death through organic means. They have this technology that does it. The biological process that the Terrans are using to do this is what is manifesting Bloodsummon. And we haven't seen it yet, but the Kogri are also capable of doing this kind of thing. It's not the same mechanism, but they are also triggering the Bloodsummon to manifest in a way. And they have been unseen as of right now. That's the 6th race for much later, next year. So that's how the Bloodsummon arrive here. And when you think of them as a cosmic force that is here to set right a perceived imbalance in creative versus destructive energy, that kind of gives you this more grandiose understanding of what the lore's implications, what the thematic resonance of the race actually is, and how they manifest is going to be downstream of that. So there is a lot of body horror. There is a lot of demonic aesthetic. But if demons were making manifest in a modern age versus a fantastical age versus a futuristic age, they would always look different, right? If forces of malevolence were doing something of that sort, they would be doing it differently. You know what I'm saying? Like, they would modify their forms to better... you wouldn't be able to technologically outpace a demon. That doesn't really work in the same way. The demon is going to modify its form to accomplish what it needs to do on a cosmic level, regardless of the tech that they're up against. And so the Bloodsummon look different when they're in Cosmonarchy than they do when they're in a lower tech environment. They are a cosmic constant. And so that is what the Bloodsummon are. Yeah, Milestone, we're working on race number 5. I don't know enough about Chaos Demons in 40k to tell you. Zerg and Protoss are two sides to a coin. Yeah, in the original StarCraft lore, the Xel'Naga created them both. That's not really established in the Cosmonarchy setting because I just don't really take the original campaigns as canon, which is a really funny thing to say. But it doesn't matter if they're canon because it was so far away from where the Chrysilient sector is located. Do I main Bloodsummon, he asks. That's a good question. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty wild, right? So I haven't been able to quite format this in the way that I would want. I'm not really sure what it will end up looking like, but are Zerg or Askosi more Catholic to deal with? Good question. I mean, Askosi have those religiosity thematics to them, right? And the pilgrim and the missionary and all that. But yeah, I guess since I'm here and I have the cornerstones written down, I can tell you guys about them. So, the Ritual of Wrath is the first cornerstone. Typically the first cornerstone is related to infrastructure in some way. You think about the first one for the Askosi is about their power building, right? Their team building and stuff. So, Bloodsummon expand their empire through death. After construction rituals begin, sacrifices can be made to accelerate them towards completion. Some units and structures become empowered through witnessing death. So that last little point is indicating that this cornerstone does also apply to things that are not necessarily infrastructure. Their static defense structures are probably going to have some component of this. Things like that. And then, yeah, typically sacrificing units by... Essentially, like the UX of this is going to look like you begin a construction effort, either through I was thinking there might be a dedicated builder unit that you start out with one of that and 5 basic workers, and your basic worker even like costs a different amount of either resources or time compared to the typical worker, so you can kind of spam them out a little bit more. I haven't exactly decided yet what it's going to look like. I do know that they're probably going to have more workers than the average race, and need more workers in order to get the same level of value, but that means their workers are going to be cheaper, maybe more spammable in that way, or maybe you'll be able to generate them through multiple structures. That was another idea that I had. And more voice lines. Good idea, Gawi. So Herm asks, if team games in bigger FFAs, did Bloodsummon get buff one of the players attack each other? No, so Bloodsummon have to be in the area to kind of harvest that destructive energy and use it to empower themselves. So what I was in the middle of explaining here is that you can imagine, like, say you've got 4 basic units. Let's use an allied example, because allies will be able to do this as well. Say your Terran ally sent 3 Mavericks to your base to help defend an early attack, and then you started a structure, and that your Terran ally was fine sacrificing his units to make your structure complete faster. So my initial thought is that the Maverick is 11 seconds for build time. Therefore, and actually we can confirm that because this in-game website, this in-client website lets me pick this up. So it's an 11-second build time for the Maverick. So we're gonna say that half of that is 5.5 seconds, maybe a quarter of that, 2.75 seconds, I think, if my math is correct there. Yeah, it should be. And so each Maverick would be about 3 seconds of build time shaved off of your structure when sacrificed. If we did a quarter, if we did a third or half or whatever, then it would be more. But then your 3 Mavericks turn into 9 seconds off of the time cost of the structure when sacrificed. I don't know what the exact number is. I'm not even close to implementing a version of this that lets me test it and actually get to a good number and figure out like what the efficiency thing would look like. But the point is, these are options for how it would work. So you just right-click task your units onto the incomplete Bloodsummon structure, and it would, one by one, with about a 1-second delay before the unit is sacrificed, it would pick a unit, it would stun them, it would sacrifice them, and then it would gain the benefit. And that would happen kind of automatically after you right-click them. The 1-second delay, maybe it wouldn't stun them, actually. Maybe it would just... It might be interruptible, so stun is a strong word, but it would probably like task it as a follow order so that the unit doesn't like start shooting or whatever. The unit shouldn't be able to interact with like the other world and attack or something. That should cancel the order. So yeah, that's that. Well, we're kind of like Mortothra cores, asks Green Eggs. Oh, cool. Good to hear about that, Green. Offered a voice in Askosi unit. Okay, cool. I'll have to write up some more actual unit response, like unit quotes for the Askosi, so that I can get you guys to all chip in. I appreciate that. Sacrifices not leave corpses. Oh, yeah. The corpse would immediately be consumed upon the sacrifice, is my thinking. Hello, Alexander. So basically, that's how I imagine the construction going. Now, I did say that like their economy is going to be kind of funky. If they start off with 1 builder, 5 workers, but then you can like spam out a bunch of workers and stuff, I think that's going to be pretty neat. So that's definitely going to give them a distinction from the other races. Also, the fact that they sacrifice units in order to increase their build times, or I guess decrease their build times, increase their build speed, is a very big distinction compared to Askosi. But I am aware that that's now 2 of the 2 new races that we've added to the game that have some method of speeding up their construction. So I'm not saying I'm going to avoid that for the Bloodsummon. I'm going to stick to the plan, because the whole idea was that if you need to emergency tech switch or get some static defense online or something, you can pay attacks in units. And it can even be a tactical thing like, oh, I actually don't think my units are going to be very good versus this guy's comp, but I do need XYZ thing fast, so I at least can use them as a sacrificial option, right? Stuff like that can happen. In team games, you can have your allies sacrifice their useless or less useful units instead of throwing them at the enemy uselessly. Or they, it's not exactly useless because you get map control with them. You can send units around to different, unoccupied bases or whatever. But you can choose to just use them for fodder for the build rate. Right? Yeah, Bailiff, this is the new website for it's cosmonarchy.com if you want to follow along. But of course, this is all my local stuff. You can't access the Bloodsummon stuff. I haven't pushed it to the main website. You can only see it when I'm streaming. That's it. That's all you guys get right now. Okay. If I grab the Pilgrim, and then I go to Bloodsummon, then I make a new entry. I'm thinking about... Of course, I have no idea what icon we would use right now. But that's not that important. Close that for now as well. Not in the 6 that are already planned, Chumbeka. Am I expecting to build stuff through the through that mechanism? So that's the answer for now. Hey, does this immediately? Hey, look at that! Already there. That's pretty legit. That is very funny. I want to Alt-Tab to see stuff, but obviously that doesn't really work. Oh, I didn't even get a chance to finish talking about the cornerstones, by the way. But yeah, that's the Ritual of Wrath. Call of Envy is... so several Bloodsummons specialize in forceful acquisitions. Some are adept at depriving hostiles of their strengths, while others demand their mind's unconditional surrender. So this is actually going to be their where their mind control comes from, and it will be kind of like OG. Way back in the day when I overhauled the Mind Tyrant for like one of the first times, the Mind Tyrant created a temporary debuff on an enemy, and when the Tyrant would be out of range or would be killed, the units would return to the original owner. And that's how I justified not needing to deal fatal damage to a unit in order to control it. And then we overhauled everything in a way that it was more about, let's mind control only when you deal fatal damage. The Bloodsummon are going to be able to do some kind of debuff to an enemy that will scale up into a temporary mind control that will work kind of like that. I kind of think, one of the things I was actually thinking about is, I kind of think that if you mind control an enemy unit with Bloodsummon, then when they take fatal damage, they will return to their original owner. And that's how we'll get around the idea that like, shit, this is kind of unfair. You stole my unit, then I had to spend DPS killing it, and then I didn't get it back. You just got free tankiness or whatever. And so, I'm not entirely sure how the math is going to work on that, but that's the general approach I'm thinking about for Call of Envy. Also, the depriving hostiles of their strengths thing is going to be... I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to go about like individual case-by-case basis for it, but I do know that like one thing is like when you... like there's going to be a Call of Envy Cornerstone derived ability where you receive damage as a Bloodsummon unit with this passive, and it reflects that damage back, but in a capacity that increases in power depending on how far the projectile launched. And that's the idea there, is that like, oh, I'm going to make it so that you attack me from a long range. Range is now your enemy. Eat this, you know, that kind of thing. And then if it's something where it's like maybe high power damage, then like I absorb that attack and reduce it in power. And so like I just block an attack, and it's one attack. And so if I'm blocking a Phalanx shell, that's way more impactful than like a Maverick, right? And so compositionally, there will be these things that are good at handling stuff like that. Now, that sounds kind of hard countery, and I'm aware of that. And so that's why I said I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to implement it. But these are some ideas that I've been playing around with in my head for manners in which to, you know, empower the Bloodsummon by stealing the strength of the enemy. Like maybe it's just like a unit that inherits the weapon range equal to whatever just attacked it. Maybe that's how they steal the strength, instead of it being like, I reflect an attack back, because that's the analog in Protoss. You know, I don't necessarily want that to be stolen away in that way. But I like the idea of a unit's range scaling with what it was recently attacked with, but defaulting to like a small number or something, because it hasn't been attacked, so it's a melee unit. But then it becomes something more. If it gets hit with an Eidolon, it can shoot back at that range, you know, something like that. Any form of permanent mind control? Not in the capacity of the other races, I think, but I'm not sure about that one. Bloodsummon units Bloodsummon builds from an enemy race. Well, it'll store what originally... You can still store what the original owner was. Like I can store that information and inherit it from units that are made from that. So if that was the case, that you made units from structures that you made from an enemy's worker or something, then they'll just have that quirk. That'd be really funny. If you sacrifice enemy units, yeah, that's probably fine, Shamble. That's a good idea. Sacrificing them for the rituals or whatever. Yeah, milestone. The desyncs have definitely reduced since we've solved fixed point, floating point with fixed point. There's some issues with divisions, so we might be dividing by 0 in a few places, which obviously causes crashes. Maybe there's some UB from similar stuff like that we haven't quite resolved. I think I've gotten a fix in for the division by 0 that was happening most frequently, but we got to keep working. You know, we got to keep following up. And then whatever desyncs remain after that should be much less potent, for one, and much easier to dive into because there's less signal noise from floating points, which are just impossible to track. So that's the hope anyway. Great news, so brave. Yeah, good. Thanks, Scott. We appreciate it. The other cornerstones. So, Eon of Pride is a fun one. Bloodsummon excel when pushed to the brink of demise, only to triumph. Many combatants gain additional strength after sustaining heavy damage, and others are capable of denying death altogether. So this is a cool one because it gives you the idea that, like, one of their, imagine one of their, they don't have, like, their structures are a little bit different, so their branches are a little bit different. But imagine a world where they have a setup for themselves that gives you access to it gives you the access to working on something like, oh yeah, my basic zealot equivalent or something, right? Like imagine something like that, a skirmisher type unit that may have like 2 to 3 weapon range. But like an I0 core, I guess, something along those lines, but like single target. Now imagine it like it fires multiple attacks, or it shoots faster. Like it almost has like something like the Vagrant passive where it turns into a shade, but that stat increase happens, or like a reverse blackjack. Like, oh, you reduced me to half HP, now I'm better. Like, that's kind of scary, because then you got to make sure to focus fire the Bloodsummon units that are like that in theory. But if they get some kind of bonus utility, like, you get risk reward from the Bloodsummon player as well. You actually want them to be at a certain lower HP. That cornerstone is going to be for some units. Like, you can kind of think from left to right here. This is like the units that have the cornerstones the most, or what have you. So the right is the more rare cornerstones there. So there might be like 2 units that have this in tier 1, for example. And then the final cornerstone is Sin Deified. Select Bloodsummon combatants can become deified. Raised to godhood through massacre, these combatants gain a host of war-ending capabilities. So this is my little nod towards the idea of having some specially designed units that gain access to certain abilities or passives or stat increases or what have you, when certain conditions are resolved. And it might even be something like witness 50 units dying within a minute or something, you know what I mean? Or like, that's maybe a little bit too long of a time scale, but a really long battle that satisfies the Bloodsummon. Obviously that would bias it a little bit more in favor of Zerg, but you can influence your composition yourself as the Bloodsummon player by spamming out a bunch of units, right? Zerg's OG infestation mechanic where they return to the original owner after taking fatal damage have some problems. Is there anything to refine that mechanic for Bloodsummon so it wouldn't have the same flaws? The problems that it had were that you had to invest into one unit, because this is before like the Matrolith really had reliable access to the same thing. And then you would infest the stuff, and then it didn't preserve on new units, from what I recall. It just wasn't all that stellar, like, in its implementation. The race wasn't really designed to access it easily, nor was it designed very well to... it wasn't really designed very well to access it, nor was it designed very well to support it. And that's a little bit different now with the modern Zerg. But that's the benefit of holistic design, right? Like, I'm looking at the Bloodsummon and saying, I know the mechanic they're going to have, roughly speaking, and as it is cemented into the game, I am going to use that as an opportunity to design units around the idea that this is going to be something that they have the ability for. So, hopefully that makes sense. But that's my idea there. I have no idea what icon we should use for this guy yet. Yeah, multi-race comp is definitely not something I'm particularly concerned about right in this moment, but, you know. If something comes up later and I can think of a better implementation of it in that kind of context. Especially with the... especially when you consider how the bottom line, of course, being that we do have a game where we are building better internet working. You know, the sync is not as bad. We are fixing bugs that are leading to desyncs. You're gonna have team games. You're gonna have FFAs be more common. You're already seeing that now, and it's only a few days after the changes. So. Yeah, I mean, taking into account the build time or the resource cost is certainly one thing that can be done. You right? I guess. But there's a lot of mineral heavy comps in the game, so I don't know about that one. There's always a little bit of value in Terran blood anyways, so even if it's just a bunch of Harakans. Sometimes especially if it's a bunch of Harakans. That is exactly what the Terrans will generally say is, we alchemied our into this problem, we can alchemy our way out. Shit.
Thanks for work.
Thanks for donation, Goosey. Appreciate you, dude. $5 closer to Acropolis's goal of prize pooling. Buff themselves upon witnessing death, stealing some of them for your army that dies and reanimates itself is good. Yeah. I think having energy be an added benefit would actually be pretty thematic for the Bloodsummon. I have to really think about all the different energy users. Yeah, that would be pretty good. Hey Goosey, you should check out that Olayx cast if you haven't already. I posted it earlier. Oh shit.
Take another 5 for the competition. Let's make it pop PogChamp.
PogChamp. Hell yeah. Dude, we're 10% of the way there. And we still have so many more playoffs matches to go. Let's go. Yeah, there's a lot of players who are newer versus not newer. There's a lot of players who are like just didn't even know that we were going for an extra race. You know what I mean? So, like, even Milestone's been around for a while. He didn't know. He was AFK for a bit, you know. But it's pretty good. I like that. Works out. Is this race going to be as micro-intensive as Askosi or more something like Zerg? I would say the race is going to have a few different play styles available to it. Right now, Askosi are in a spot where I don't think a lot of people have found more macro-oriented styles. And of course, the kind of janky building, although it has been improved lately, it's not fully back, not fully fixed or anything. That also contributes to them being micro-intensive in a way. Where even just to build structures with all the power builders, it takes some effort. But yeah, resolving that and then looking to some thematic reset for the Askosi. There's a couple units that I want to like reset a few of them, overhaul them a little bit. But specifically in the way that like I'm kind of simplifying their concepts. That's kind of what I want to go after there. So. But yeah, the Bloodsummon, you're gonna have a few options for kind of like flooding the arsenal. I mean, their basic branch here is called Torrential, so you can imagine that's a lot of, you know. Oh, that's an interesting observation about the Askosi, because I feel like they've got the Proselyte, the Cardinal, the Vicar, the Rove. Oh shit!
Good that money exists. If you mean the game versus cannoli, I am more sad that you chose that game.
No. There's a game versus Shopkeeper Dog that LAX and I casted on Patadia. Spoiler, it features the Endboar. I got another game that you feature in coming tomorrow, so you'll check that out. I'm sure. Thanks again for the $5. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Inkblot and the Emissary also count towards that total, so they definitely have more ability users than what you would initially expect, I think. So. Yeah, Rematerialize is inactive. That's Vicar and Emissary have that, as well as the Islet. But I was kind of counting the Islet as from the Proselyte, so whether that's fair or not. There's a pretty good number of them have that. Oh, that's pretty good. It's all right, dude. I got some good ones coming. You'll like them. Amber Word has unique music for it, but these guys are raced on it. Yeah, we talked about that earlier, Alexander. We need to have Jesse finish reverse engineering the music code, because even the music is hard coded. So. Well, you better take your screenshots, homie, because this is not a publicly available website yet. Oh shit.
Ye well, we need more money in this B. But I do like when you cast my games, cuz then I can improve and get tips. Thanks. Sweden.
Sweden with the bows. Boas. What's good, ADC Black? The bows. The bows. I can't remember already. I forgot it. It's all right. Hell yeah, dude. 10 sender time. That's my shit right there. Okay. That's another thing. Okay. What do I do for work? I do this for work, and I run some premium tabletop experiences. I get paid to do that. So as a paid GM, game master, dungeon master, stuff like that. I also do some part-time work in my real life. The goal is to eventually not need to do that anymore. But we'll get there. We'll get there. So this is the harvester for the Bloodsummon, the Akwi. I've been off work 7 years. Hell yeah, brother. Just got to get there. Yeah, the plan here is to basically have this guy work as kind of a spammable worker. So you see that they have 40 health instead of the usual. 60 or so has been the minimum. They cost half as much money. It was supposed to be a 12 time cost. Doesn't look like that got set though. If we click back into it, there it is. And then yeah, they're gonna get double movement speed when they're isolated. So obviously you can't use them for harvesting resources really quickly because they're gonna have more than one worker there. Oh, that's probably a good idea, Alexander. I didn't get too deep into it yet, but yeah, that's a cool one. And then you got the Forlorn Haste passive there. Their weapon is also going to do less damage. It doesn't have an armor pen like most workers do. It does less damage than most workers, but it attacks a little bit faster, so its DPS isn't a huge fall off. It's still something though, particularly versus armor. But this unit you're going to have the ability to train a lot of, I think. So. Hurry up and release these guys already, says Bitty. Classic move. Yeah, dude, for your birthday. I don't think we're going to go past tier 3 for any of the other races. Protoss is kind of unique in the way that they have access to tier 4. But we'll see. I have a couple of ideas for some of their stuff. I'm just not quite there yet. But it'll be a good one for sure. I'm going to pop in here for the landlock so I can grab that guy. And then I guess we should probably come up here and 4 races already sounds like a lot. We're going to go to 6, homie. Starcraft 2 Reaper is called Yum Kimmel? What the fuck? Scouting worker going to neutral TC is double effective. Yep, Shambler, you're right. That's something I did think about. Oops. That's not what I wanted to do. I actually don't remember how we even did cornerstones. Hold on, I gotta open the Pilgrim again. Or the Vicar, maybe? Yeah, it's just that. So... yeah, models are going to be a fun one, that's for sure. I look forward to seeing what kind of wacky stuff we get up to. There. So, oh. An error occurred. Reading ID. Okay. Well, that sure is blood and summon. Okay. Yeah, they would need player color, so that's the main thing. But we can probably find a bunch of stuff that will do okay for placeholders. I might get some from Warlord's Battlecry. That's what I did originally for the Bloodsummon and Onatar. All right, so we got a couple of things here. Looks like the atrium isn't quite keyed correctly. Oh, that's weird. It should be working fine. Maybe it just wasn't loaded or something. Might have to... Alright, that's fine by me though. What do we have to do? Control C. Yeah, we can terminate that. Alright. Okay, Milestone, thank you for helping me get that set up. We got a couple of Bloodsummon ideas parked out there, and now I know what to do when I need to do some more. So that's very cool. and wrap that one up. Pretty cool stream. I gotta jump out so that I can. I gotta jump out so that we can do some casting with Alaix. We're gonna do another co-cast here pretty soon. So it's gonna be a fun time. And then I'm gonna be out on a bit of a walk and stuff. So I'll be getting some more work done on Cosmonarchy in the evening. But for now, I'm gonna say sayonara. Goosey, thank you for the moolah. Appreciate it. We're gonna be we're gonna be doing some more Goosey casts anyway. It wasn't because of the buddy that he got those. He had already gotten a bunch of those recorded. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, I'm open to a couple of ideas. I don't know if the team game replays are validated. I'm guessing not. And they sometimes will crash in the middle of playback. So we need to, if somebody can validate stuff for me, that would be great. But need to fight Goosey? Good luck, homie. Need to fight in general? Hell yeah. Oh yeah. Sixth race? Yeah, it's the Kogri. They're enormous, muscle-bound titans of flesh and sinew, and just they're stacked, dude. Good luck. Good luck dealing with those guys. They're gonna have like 3 workers to start with instead of 6, but their workers are gonna be doubly as effective. And if you try to worker rush them or fight them in any way, they're just gonna pick you up and throw you out of their base. That's what they're gonna do. So the Kogri are pretty baller. But that's that. That's GG's there. I'll see you guys later. Peace.